Hello and welcome to lesson number 3 of our fundamental series in the easy way to play guitar. Today we're going to be talking about picking. We're going to go over different types of picking, but just basically the two main types, because we're only going to do the basic stuff here. So when you play a guitar, there are two main ways you can play it, and I'll just grab my acoustic. You can either play with your fingers, which is literally like that, or you can pick up a pick, one of these bad boys, a plectrum, and you can play with that. Now, there are some differences between the two. Generally, when you play with a pick, you get a cleaner sound, but there are some things you can't really do with a pick that you can do with your fingers. If you want to play with a pick, say you want to play two strings at the same time with a pick, you have to use your fingers anyway, and that's a bit more of an advanced technique. So if you're going to be trying stuff like that anyway, you may as well learn it with your fingers. It's important to learn to play with your fingers. Very important to learn to play with your fingers. There's a lot of guitarists who are like, oh, I can't play with my fingers. There's a lot of guitarists who say, oh, I can't play with a plectrum. You've got to learn to do both. It's an important skill to be able to do both. Some people say it's easier to learn playing fingerstyle. Some people say it's easier to learn with a plectrum. Mainly the difference for me with a plectrum is that when you play with a plectrum, you lose a little bit of feeling. So it takes a lot more practice to know where your hand is in relation to the strings, what string you're on, and it adds in another level of complication. So for beginners, I always try to encourage them to use their fingers. It's quite important because you can still strum with your fingers, you know, but you can do a lot of stuff with it. It gives you feel for the guitar, and then when you start using a plectrum, you already have a sort of feeling for where your hand is already. And so, without further ado, we'll start with finger picking. For fingerstyle, also known as finger picking, it's very, very, very important that you use the correct fingers for the correct strings. So that's the first thing we're going to cover. Put your hand over the front of your sound hole, if you're on an acoustic or if you're on electric, between your pickups. And then put your thumb on the lower E string and take your pinky, your little finger, and put it on the high E string. Then place your other three fingers on the next three strings. So you should have your little finger on the high E string, your ring finger on the B string, your middle finger on the G string, and your index finger on the D string. And then your thumb will do both the low E string and the A string. So, the first thing to practice is picking your strings, and you're just going to pick them one after the other from the low E string to the high E string, and you just go. After you finish each pluck, you're just going to pull away the finger until the hand is completely clear of the guitar. And that's what you need to practice first. That's your first exercise. Once you're comfortable with that, once you feel that your thumb will automatically go to the right strings, each finger will automatically go to the right strings, and when I put my hand to a guitar, my hand automatically falls into that position. It's where I go. And that's where you need to be. Eventually, that's not going to happen straight away, but that's where you need to be. Just put your hand on it and it automatically goes into the right place. And so you're just going to keep practicing. Making sure the strings ring out, they don't sound dull, you're not stopping them with your finger after you just want to be going. So they should all be ringing out. After you've got that, it should take you about 5 or 10 minutes to get that down. Start moving on to the more difficult things. So all we're going to do is we're going to start adding in an extra strum of each string for each exercise. So we'll go to 2, then 3, then 4. And so what you do is you go 2 on each. making sure you're leaving the strings ringing. That's the last strum you do on each string should ring out until you stop it later on. And so you do 2. Once you get comfortable with that, which will probably take you as long as it took you to get comfortable with doing 1 at a time, move up to 3. And finally, you move on to 4. Now you shouldn't be going at the pace I'm going here. This is the pace you should be going. So, for exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3. Now there are a couple of other finger picking techniques you need to know. First one is called a stab chord. And that is literally when you stab at something. So like this. And it's the same place you should have in your hand for playing fingerstyle all the time. Thumb on the low E string, pinky or little finger on the high E string, and then your other 3 fingers on each string down. And you just pull all 5 strings at once. And then stop. I automatically hold chords when I do this, but you don't need to worry about that. You literally hand off the guitar. And the idea of this exercise is to help your muscle memory for when you've finished plucking as such, and you take your hand away, you're going to get it straight back down again. And so you do have to use this thing, you know. You will use the technique in actual songs, but mostly it's for muscle memory. The drill, at least, is for muscle memory. So you're doing. And you want to start off looking at your hand while you're doing it. And after 10 or so times, you want to look away. And start practicing looking away from your hands. Because most of the time when you're playing guitar, if you want to be looking at anything, you're going to be looking at your left hand. You want to be able to do the right hand completely unconsciously. So start off looking. Once you feel that you're comfortable with that, then look away. You still just be able to look up. If you look up straight out like I'm at the camera now, you'll still just about be able to see your right hand. So that is the stab chord exercise. Now the final thing you're going to do with fingerstyle is finger strumming. And for that, take your fingers like that, press your thumb and your index finger together so that they make the same shape a plectrum would. It's the exact same as if you were holding a plectrum in your hand. You would hold it in the exact same way. And all you're going to do is go down and then up. Making sure you ring out all 6 strings. For the second exercise with strumming, you're going to only strum the higher 5 strings. So you're not going to strum this lower E string. You're just going to strum. So you want to practice only strumming those 5 strings, because there's a lot of chords that don't use the low E string, so you need to be able to strum just those 5 strings. And then you do the same thing but only with the highest 4 strings, so you don't play the E or the A, you just strum the highest 4. And again, the pace you do exercise that is whatever pace you need to go up. So if you need to go, or even, then that's fine. Go at the speed that is comfortable for you. That's all there is to basic finger picking. Coming up now, basic use of a plectrum. So let's talk about picking technique with a plectrum. This is something that's different to fingerstyle. With fingerstyle, there's only ever really one way you can pluck the strings, depending on which finger you're using. If you're using your thumb, you pluck down. If you're using your fingers, you come up. You can flip it down, but it's a bit uncomfortable. You can do rakes and stuff that way. But with a plectrum, however, the technique you're going to want to learn to use, and you should learn it straight away. If you're going to use a plectrum from the start, this is the way you should be learning to use it, because this is the way you'll use it the most often. And it's called alternate picking. And it sounds exactly like what it is. You go up and down, up and down, down, then up, down, then up, down, then up. And so when you play, you strike the strings alternately up and down, up, 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 down. And so instead of doing down, 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 which actually reduces your speed because every time you've got to bring your pick back up over the string again, or going up, 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 up. There are times when you are going to want to do 2 down, 3 down, 2 up, 3 up, or something, but most of the time you're going to want to be using alternate picking. So it's pretty simple. All you're going to do is whenever you do the exercises, you're going to go up, down, then up, down, then up, down, then up. And so if you're going to be doing it with a pick, this is how you start. Just practicing going over that E string, that low E string. And then you're going to start going up the strings, and you're going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And that's your first exercise. And you just practice that over and over and over until you can do it without ever doing sort of like missing the string or... Pretty simple exercise, works a treat. Once you can do that, you're going to move on to the second exercise, which just doubles it up basically. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 on each string. Now when you first start out, you want to go pretty slow. All the exercise, you want to go at about this pace. You want to go... If you struggle with that sort of pace, just keep slowing it down so that you're at a pace you don't struggle with. If you have to go then you have to go that slow. It's better to go slow and get it right and build your way up than try and go too fast too quickly and just be doing it wrong the whole time. So like with that, as you get better and better, you start doing exercises like this one. notice the faster I try to go, the more mistakes I make. So when you're practicing, don't try to go too fast. If you try to go too fast, you'll just make mistakes, and that's not helping anyone. So go at a comfortable pace, and the speed will come of its own accord. If you try to go fast, you'll make mistakes. If you practice at a comfortable speed, you will, over days and weeks, notice that you go faster and faster naturally, and you don't make as many mistakes. So we'll just go back over the exercises again. Your first two exercises, if you're playing with a plectrum, just going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then your second exercise is just doubling it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now some of you may be wondering, well, where do I put my hand when I'm playing this? It doesn't really matter. Some people rest it here. I tend to rest my hand, my two fingers here on my scratch guard when I'm just playing this stuff. Some people don't touch down at all. Some people do it like this. And again, personally, I feel that it's mainly to do with preference, and sometimes you'll have your hand touching, sometimes you won't. It depends what you're doing. Probably better to practice without touching down. It will give you better feel. But if you can't play like that, if you're struggling too much, if you just can't do it, nothing wrong with putting your hand down. That's it for basic picking. Next lesson will be basic fingering, a term that always gets a snigger from my teenage students. We'll be covering how to use your left hand on a guitar and all the basic techniques you'll need. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.